Good day and welcome back to my channel. This will be the next phase in where we are on the Xwing A-10 build. And as you can see, we've pretty much got it mocked up. For the most part, the build is done. We've got the underside in. We have main lines done. There's a little bit of cleanup to do on the underneath for the lines. There's a bit more I'm going to do there. Probably I'm not going to do it as intensely as I could, but we'll see where I go when I get there. So the next step here, now that we have it pretty much phased out or fleshed out, I will put up a couple of pictures of where we are, and so you know we've got it on its gear, and took a bit to balance it so we had it straight. And that was one of the tricks with going with the gear kind of the way it is getting it so that it glued in straight, and when it sits on the ground, these are roughly equidistant from the ground. That took a little bit of balancing, but once I got that glued in, that's pretty much solid now. So now I can go back, put in a few more detail pieces into the undercarriage around here to put a little more of a mechanics in there so it looks more like the things fold up and then swing up in. With that, once that's in, now I'm at the next phase, which is kind of starting to detail now that we've got this piece done. There's a little bit of fill and sand, just the different pieces that you see or that I find as I go through and I'm looking at things. But for the most part, I'm starting to get looking at the final shape and contour and so forth. And so now now it's time to start looking at details. So a couple things. So on the wingtips, so we've got 4 wingtips, we've got 4 hard points. Kind of what I'm looking at here is these missiles at each of the hard points. See if I can't really put one underneath on the bottom of those, so it looks like the best I can do here on the back is these. So if I go with any other, so I could take one of these Hellfires, they could mount there, and they're a little more subtle. These give it a little more of an Xwing look because the little sticky outy thing. So I have a feeling, I'm thinking that that's pretty much where I'm going to go. I've thought about underslinging one mount underneath the wings here just because of the A-10 look. But I don't think I like the contour of that versus the Xwing kind of feel. So I think that's where I'm going to go. But the next step now is panel lines. So, I've pretty much sanded off all the panel lines in this, and the kit are raised lines anyway, which, so what I've done is I pulled out a bunch of pictures of A-10s. Well, not really a bunch, but enough, which show where the panel lines are and what kind of weathering we see on some of them, right? So, this one gives something of a look to the panel lines across the top and where I'd be looking at lines across the leading edges of it, as well as, so these lines here with the engines and a few going down the sides. This, I get a little more decent look at where those lines would be on the side, along with this one here gives me, it's a artist drawing, but it gives me where I can map them out. So the next step now is going to be mapping them out and then doing the scribing. Now, what I'm planning to do is pretty much just take a pencil and map out where they're going to go, draw the line. And then once I have the line drawn, I can actually draw and see where it ends up being. And if I like the look of it, then that's where I'll scribe. I'll go ahead and I'll take the tool and I'll scribe it in. If I don't like the look of it, then, the nice thing about a pencil line is, I can either just paint over it or sand it off real quick. So the next step for me now is to do that, is to go back through here, and I'm being a little rough with this. The next step is to go back through here map out where I want my lines to be. So like these here, no, that would all be right here where the cockpit was. So to give it its look, we'll probably take a line down and put some of this, as if, like if we look at this guy here, right? So a lot of the look of this line where they kind of cut across and have panels sort of like here, and they go down and we have a center line panel here. And that's kind of what I'll probably end up doing, or where I'll end up mapping them out. So I'm going to go ahead and map them out. And then once I map them out, I'll get them scribed in. Once that's done, once they're scribed in, then they're mapped out. There's a couple more panels I want to touch up, like this one here. So this is the door where the ladder for the cockpit was. So I'm going to want to clean these up, probably scribe these in, and maybe put a couple more panels on, kind of like I did here. And this is just cardstock, really. So, and you can kind of see that it's still got some of the look to it. But the cardstock for the doors, so that, these would fold in and then they would roll right up into there. So just to give it that extra look. But I may just put a couple more panels via, using cardstock to give it more depth and texture. Depth and interest, I guess, is a better term. But that's where we'll go with it. I got to looking at this, and the picture of the picture that sort of was the inspiration. And I kind of stopped for a minute. So I'm going to put that picture back up here. Right. So what I saw there was the angle of the wings. So the angle of the wings in that picture obviously is much more flat. So these would have a much narrower or a much smaller angle between these two to equal up with those picture. I didn't like the look of it, right? The more I looked at that, the more it didn't quite have the Xwing feel to me. Now, those who are watching obviously may or may not have a different opinion than I do, but this is the opinion I had when I did it. This has more of an Xwing feel to me, little less. It looks a little less A-10-ish and a little more Xwing-ish, I guess is the best way to put it. But this is where I went. This is the direction I've gone. And this is where I'm at. That's probably what I'm going to run. Well, not probably. It is what I'm going to run with. It was kind of a fun experiment, and I'm not just going to stop now. There's too much contour and sanding and everything that's gotten me to here, and I'm more enamored of this than the other, I guess, when I look at the comparison. So for now, it's go forward, get the missiles cleaned up, ready, get them looking a little more missile-like, and then start scribing the panel lines. And I'm going to use these, transfers. There we go. The transfers that came with the kit, and do all those up and get a little more work in there. But once I get all that done, I'll come back with the panel lines in, and then we'll probably do one more look of it with it finally ready to start painting and weathering. So, I've got the canopy done. The canopy's waiting to get put on. It's over here tucked away safely, I hope. So the canopy's in, the canopy's completed. It's just waiting to get put on, and then the detail around the canopy so it looks like it belongs. Once I have that done, then I can actually crack in on the detailing, but I need to get the scribes, the panel lines in, then base coated, and then I'll put the canopy on, seal that all up, get that looking nice and clean, then seal it one more time, and then I can start the weathering. So that's where we are. That's what I've got done so far. I will just move on from here. I found myself getting to the point where I was moving quite quickly And I could see that the next few steps are going to be, kind of bang bang. And I wanted to at least capture it here before I went and did the next phase, which is the scribing. So I hope that's entertaining, and I've kind of waffled on a bit longer than I intended. So I will go ahead and close for now, and wish you all, until next time, happy modeling. Thank you.